Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, Terry. I am super excited for this talk. This is as much as it is yours as it is mine. It just happens to be live streamed on my platform. So I am here with Terry Chrisman. Sorry, I'm just muting myself. And we are going to have a hopefully very well-rounded debate, conversation. It might get heated. We might hang up. I don't know. On GLP1s, weight loss, health, and longevity. So, Terry, did you want to introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi, everyone. My name's Terri Chrisman. I'm a whole food plant-based nutritionist. I am the author of this book, Fabulous Health, A Simple Plan to Get Well and Stay Well. And I'm also board certified by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So Bianca and I are on the same page when it comes to health and lifestyle. We're all about whole food eating and whole plant food eating, I should say, and exercise and getting enough sleep and things like that. But we do differ on our opinions of these new weight loss medications. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm very excited to have this debate. And look, we still love each other no matter what. It doesn't matter what we say today. We're still best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And my name is Bianca Jane, and I'm the plant-based queen, and I am a health and weight loss coach for women to help them stop dieting and start thriving with plants. And me and Terry, we connected for a love for plants and whole food plant-based. But today we are going to talk about the interventions of the current medications that are on the markets and off the market, should we say, under the
Yeah.
tables. So let's just
Under the
start
table, she
under
says.
the
Oh,
table.
it's
You
like the
never know.
black market.
I mean, we'll get into it eventually, but I know a couple of people who are personally who are getting it under the table. So that is all part and parcel of the world that we live in with accessibility and things like that. So should we just start from the beginning and just kind of talk about, why we're here? And first of all, I want to say, like, Terry has far more qualifications than I do. I am not a doctor, but we are here to discuss, from what we've both seen working with other people and what I've seen with working with hundreds of women as well,
Mm,
and how we can take our own, anecdotes and our own experiences and share that with the world.
yeah.
Um, so what are they? Like, what are GLP-1s? Do you wanna go first, or do you want me to
Yeah,
go?
so GLP-1s, GLP-1s is the short name for the medication. And what they do is they mimic a natural hormone in our body that tells us that we've had enough to eat. And they attach to these natural receptors in your gut. And what happens is in the normal situation with a person eating food, those GLP-1 hormones only last for about 5 minutes. But the synthetic version of them, the oral tablet or the injectable, they last for hours. So they do a few things. They give you satiety, which means that you feel like you've had enough to eat. They also slow down the gastric emptying, which for people who don't speak scientific language. That means that they slow down how fast your food is digested and how long it stays in your tummy. So, have you ever gone out to dinner late at night when you really know that you probably shouldn't eat too much and you're having a great time with your friends and family and you eat a lot of food and you think that was fantastic, but maybe I just ate a little bit too much. And then you go home to bed like instantly, and then you're lying in bed going, yeah. So that will happen to you on GLP-1s if you overeat because the food is not getting churned up in your tummy really quickly and then sent off down your intestines. It's not emptying. And that's the beauty of them, right? Because when you are suffering from food addiction or you're overweight and you find it difficult to stop eating, then having that fullness feeling is a godsend, right? You don't want to, a lot of people who are overweight or have trouble with food is that they're always hungry, always hungry. They can finish a meal and then they're in the cupboard looking for something else. So that's one of the main benefits of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as simply as possible as well is that they're gonna stop you from eating so many calories and
Yes.
also equally so much volume, which they don't work like less volume doesn't necessarily mean healthier, right? And they don't necessarily stop you from eating junk food. They just stop you from eating a volume of food. So you are going to be full faster with a smaller amount of food.
Yes, but I'm going to put a little caveat in there. I haven't actually told everybody that I've actually taken GLP-1s. So I'm going to give you personal experience. Now, being a whole food plant-based nutritionist, I'm not the sort of person to run out and buy junk food, fried food, all that kind of stuff anyway. But I'm finding that the desire for that food is gone completely. So, for example, in the past, if you, even though wrote the book on how to be healthy, you walk me past a vegan donut shop, I'm salivating. I
Because
want
you're a
that
human
donut.
being, Terry.
Yeah,
Because we're human beings, and me too.
exactly.
Me too. I'm a
Exactly.
weight loss coach and I eat vegan donuts and pizza every now and then. We're not
Right.
perfect, right?
But what these medications do is that you lose the emotional pull to those things. So, look, and I know that you say this, if you want to have the vegan donut and you feel that you can put it within your daily amount of calories and you know that you're eating really healthy for the rest of the day and you've got your protein and all that, go ahead and have the vegan donut without guilt. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I find is that the vegan donut doesn't speak to me anymore. So there's no, oh, I can't have it. I feel bad that I can't have it. It's not fair that I can't have it. I really want it. And the donut's talking to me. That's gone.
Mm, interesting. Okay. So that's what I wanted to talk next as well, is about the food noise. Like,
Mm.
let's just GLP-1s to the side for a second. There's a couple of things that I made notes on like why do we have this food noise? Because that's the food noise that you're talking about, right? That emotional
Mm.
pull is like as soon as when you're eating breakfast, you're thinking about lunch. When you're eating lunch, you're thinking about dinner. What am I going to have? What am I going to like snack on? And so there are definitely a few reasons why we have this food noise going on. And first and foremost, I want to just talk about the food that is on our shelves, the food that we find surrounding us everywhere we go isn't food anymore,
Yeah, it's rubbish,
right? It
isn't it? A
isn't
lot of it's
food.
rubbish. Mm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So having that food noise and experiencing hunger, like they are a natural part of our evolution, right? To stay alive
Yes.
and stay on this planet. So it's good to have that level of hunger and some level of okay, what am I going to eat next, and when am I going to eat next? And I think that's important because I've heard some people really trying to suppress that natural biology, right? Our intuition on keeping ourselves alive. And just
Yeah,
because
that's
you're thinking
dieting, right? And we don't
absolutely.
diet. That's not what we want to do. And that's old stuff, dieting, restricting calories, restricting the things that you want to eat. And you and I know that that doesn't help anybody. So, and you're right, absolutely. The majority of the food available, and let's talk about the supermarket for a start. The majority of the food in the aisles, a lot of it's garbage, a lot of it's processed, packaged, a lot of additives, chemical additives, flavors, colors, stabilizers, gums, fats, etc., sugars, salts to make us want to eat it. The food around the outside, your fruits, vegetables, whole grains and things, they're the good things. But a lot of the food that people eat these days is not from the supermarket. It's going out to dinner, and you have no control over what the restaurant puts in your dinner unless you go to a whole plant food, no oil, no sugar, no salt restaurant, and they're very few and far between. Although I must say, I went to New York on the weekend and there are tons of them. It's awesome. Uh, and I know that Britain is really good for vegetarian and plant-based food, but you have to be careful about the oil, the sugar, the salt, and things like that. So even though you think you might be eating really healthily, you have no idea what's in that food. So I think a lot of people don't cook at home. And if we're all cooking at home every single meal, we have complete control. And then that makes it so much easier for us to eat healthily.
Absolutely. But then there's a significant amount of people who don't do that, or they'll do
Yeah.
takeaways, or they'll get drive-throughs. And this isn't a debate on shaming anyone for their choices. It's just
Mm,
the habits that you find yourself falling back on is, oh, I'll just grab some food from the drive-through because it's quicker, because it's easier. And
mm,
this is really a lot of what I get into with my clients is talking about the reality. Like sometimes we feel like we don't have time for things. We actually do, right? We might be scrolling on social media or we might be watching TV for 2 hours in the evening when you can reinvest that time cooking a little bit of home cooked food that it was really simple and really easy to get your energy and time back in other places. So I think yes, when you go out, but that's also a choice, right? I think
mm,
sometimes we go, oh, it's not my problem. Oh, I can't help it. Oh, the restaurant I go to. But we have to make that choice. And that choice
mm.
is like, okay, either I choose to prepare something and go out, or I choose to grab something from a different place and then go and dine with my friends. Like all of this is that choice, right? And yes, while we can change everything that happens at home, a lot of what we eat, yeah, I think you're right. It is we do eat from other places and not just home, but we can't just sit back and say, "Hey, it's not in my control."
No, well, it has to be a priority too, Bianca, doesn't it? I
Mm.
mean, whenever you do any kind of behavior change, it has to be something that you put effort into and that you monitor and that you don't just freestyle it, that you know exactly what you're doing and how you're doing, and you have to have a plan and you've got to stick to the plan, and it takes effort. And a lot of people are not prepared for that effort. So, yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. If, but in my situation, I was in a situation where I was doing all the things. And this is what I'm hearing from people is that they're doing all the things and that their body is still deciding that it's going to hang on to extra weight. Their body's still deciding that it's going to have high blood pressure, and their body's still deciding that it's going to have high cholesterol, despite planning, doing, and putting a lot of emotional and intellectual effort and time into the lifestyle. After a while, that just becomes very, very exhausting, and people feel defeated, particularly women, postmenopausal women. Look, with respect, when I was your age, I was skinny as a stick and had muscles popping out all over the place. And what happens after you get older, your body decides that it's on another planet, and you have to work out what planet it's on, and you have to find new ways to help your body be as healthy as it can possibly be. And I don't mean that with
100%.
any disrespect,
No,
but
no, I agree.
the thing is that it does become harder, and it's a new territory. And
Mm.
unfortunately, we haven't had a rule book for the new territory. People who are my age, postmenopausal, and struggling with this. And the other thing is, when look, I'm 58, so I've been struggling with my weight my entire life
Mhm.
from the age of 4. So let's say 54 years is enough. I've had a freaking enough of struggling. And maybe, you might think that there are people out there who think, oh, this is just the easy button. Yeah, I don't want to do all those things. I just want to take the pill, or I just want to take the shot, and I'm going to be instantly skinnier. It's not like that. It's a tool in your toolbox. And the other tools in your toolbox must be the tools that you preach and that you teach your clients. They must
100%.
be knowing about where food comes from, knowing
Abs
how much is enough,
mm,
knowing what you need in your bowl or on your plate, knowing
mm,
about exercise, knowing about sleep, knowing about relationships with other people, relationships with yourself. These are all things that are imperative for a healthy lifestyle. And
mm.
when you've dialed all those things in first for years, not just for 5 minutes, and your body is rejecting your efforts, that's when these GLP-1s come into play, and that they can be a helpful tool.
Mhm. I totally agree. I would like to go back very quickly to food noise because this is all interlinked, right? It's all interlinked. So if we are eating the foods that are creating more things like hypertension and insulin resistance and extra weight gain. And if we are eating those foods, that's just going to keep us in that cycle of eating, wanting,
Yep.
right?
And
So
because they're addictive as well. Don't
because they're
forget that,
addictive.
right? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, they're addictive. So that's where the food noise comes in. And there's a couple.
No, 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 no. Food noise is inherent in your brain. It's got nothing to do with the food. I've been eating whole food plant-based for 10 years. Before that, I was vegetarian for 35 years. And I have tried to be the healthiest version of myself my entire life. The food noise has been there since I was a child. It's
Hmm.
got nothing to do with the food you eat. It's inherent in your brain. And some people have it and some people don't. And the people who don't have no idea what it is.
Mm.
With respect.
Mm. As we said, I'm sure we'll make kiss and make up after this video. But okay, so to a degree, the more you eat, it's addictive, right? So you're going to have
Yes.
those thoughts and feelings of I want more of that. If I have a donut,
Yes.
I'm going to want more, right?
Yes.
In regards to
And
that
that is
kind
the
of food
donut's
noise.
fault, right? But
That is
but having said
the
that, some people can have a half a donut and throw the rest away and not be bothered by it.
Yeah, I don't trust those people. I wouldn't trust them with my life. I wouldn't trust them with my life. If you're someone who can put down a quarter of a donut, like a quarter of a donut, no, no. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to actually talk about in regards to like the food noise, and this is just from like working with other women and what I see and what I hear is women chronically misinterpret food noise, cravings as or they misinterpret this food noise, thinking that it's food noise, when actually we have an underlying emotional or nervous system dysregulation that
Mm,
we need to balance out. Now, I think that it's very important to recognize that almost nobody is taught how to deal with their emotions, how to regulate their nervous system. And I think we are human beings are conditioned and programmed to use food. Is a baby crying? Give it food. Like not
mm.
if it's hungry, but it's like, oh, the child fell over, let's give it food. So I think food noise kind of comes from that area as well. And then third one I was going to say is unhealthy behaviors that are ingrained through our family traditions and culture. And I think this is definitely where you've mentioned before that your parents and your family were overweight.
Yeah. Well, my dad.
Your
Yeah,
dad
my
was
dad.
overweight.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, there's a Stanford study that shows that children with overweight parents were 48% more likely to become overweight, right? And I think, that there is a level of, and they've done twin studies as well, where environment is a huge factor. Um, and I think a level of our traditions, things like clearing the plate, you can't leave the table until you've finished, normalizing large portions of food and normalizing these processed foods. I think all of these things also add to that food noise. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, your culture, what you've grown up with, what your parents do, how you've learnt to deal with food, whether or not your family was obese, whether or not your family was active, those things all play a huge role in whether or not a person is going to be having, sorry, my hair is all over the place, whether or not a person is going to struggle with their weight. So let me tell you a little bit more about my family. My mother she probably weighs 49 kilos. She's only 5'2". So that's she's a thin person. She's never put on weight. She's probably the same size she was the day she got married in 1963. And she's 85 now. My dad was always heavy set, and his sisters were morbidly obese in the 70s, in a time when you couldn't buy clothes for people of that size, and they used to wear muumuus and they used to sew them themselves because they could not buy clothes in their size. Now, My dad died of a heart attack at age 51, and maybe his lifestyle had something to do with it, but I also believe that there is a genetic component to that because it's kind of obvious throughout his family. My mum's family, no problem whatsoever. And so I'm in the middle. I'm stuck between the genetics of my family and also my lifestyle as a child was very healthy. Lots of sports, lots of healthy fruits and vegetables, never any processed food. Well, you know what? You couldn't buy it then anyway, like when I was a kid, it wasn't available. My mum always made healthy food. Yes, my dad and I would go to the donut shop when she wasn't looking, but I believe that the environment has to be considered. There's really, if you think about a child born in, say, 2000 or, say 2020 or 2015, who lives in a family that doesn't exercise, that only lives on processed foods, that sits down and watches television or plays video games, that child is in an environment conducive to unhealthy behaviours and unhealthy living. And they have an uphill battle trying to be a healthy person.
Mm.
And you compare that to a child, you know, born 10 years ago or 8 years ago or whatever, whose family are whole food, plant-based, and they go for a walk after dinner every night and the kids are in soccer practice and stuff. They're going to have a much better chance of being a healthy person. So absolutely, I agree with you on those things. But I think
100%.
it's nature and nurture, and I don't think we can, I just don't think we can simplify it so much. I think there's a bit
Really?
of everything.
I mean, I'm not denying that like food noise is a thing for certain people and some people. Like we all think differently. We all have
Mm.
different brains, right? What fires in my brain won't fire in yours. And we all have things that we think about and we obsess about. We have our likes and preferences. So I think it's very logical that some people really do struggle with extra food noise, loud food noise.
Yes.
But I think, as you said, environment as well is, are you working in an environment or are you constantly around somewhere that is like just full of junk food, right? Are you living in a home where your husband or your children, there's cupboards full of junk food? All of these things are going to we got to take into consideration. Are we making it easier or harder for ourselves? Um, and I think that really goes into. So I went on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise, and Dr. Michael Greger shared a study, and I actually don't have it, but you just reminded me. Dr. Michael Greger shared a study on Nigerians that they hold the predisposition for getting Alzheimer's, but it's only like 2% actually get the disease. And he says that genetics will load the gun, but your environment pulls the trigger. I think we've
Mm.
all probably heard that phrase or saying before.
Yep. Yeah.
So yes, there can be a predisposition, but then it's everything about your environment and what you're doing is going to input to whether you keep the weight off or lose weight or gain weight
Yeah. No, no,
or
I
even
absolutely
illnesses.
agree. It's just harder for people who were brought up without a healthy environment to start with.
A
So
hundred
I
percent.
feel blessed that I was brought up in a healthy environment. Look, I wasn't whole food plant-based as a child,
Mm.
but meat and processed foods were not front and center in our life. So I think I started off with a good basis for health. I wasn't living on mac and cheese and fish fingers as a child. So therefore, my mum cooked and she still shops at the farmer's market 2 times a week. And she's been doing it since 1963, the same farmer's market. And we would come home with a trunk or a boot full of fruits and vegetables, and that's what we ate for the week, you know. And then maybe she might go to the supermarket and buy some toilet paper and yogurt and, you know, a few slices of ham or something, you know what I mean? Like, so I think your environment plays a big part. It helps you as an adult.
That's really interesting because I'm kind of the opposite, right? Not to a huge degree, but I grew up on TV dinners. Chicken nuggets, pasta, beans, and chips were like what I was given as a kid. Like
Yeah.
anything that goes in the oven or just pasta, like there you go, right? And I didn't have a healthy diet growing up,
Yeah,
but
but
at
so
the
that
moment,
means you had to do all the work.
so I had to learn everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to do,
Yes, that's
I had
right.
to
That's right.
research.
You had to do all the work for yourself. And some people, they don't know how to do that. They don't know where to start. They don't have the drive to do it.
Well,
A
I'm
lot
going to
of
say
people,
something. If someone needs
yeah,
to start,
okay.
pick up your book.
Yeah, no, thank you.
If they need to start, pick up your book and come and speak to
Thank
me.
you. Yes, buy this book, everyone. This is,
I
I,
should have grabbed it. I've got my copy down there.
I'm so not together that I didn't think to bring a copy of the book to the desk. And this is my not for
Oh,
resale proof. It just happened to be sitting there. But you're right. And I do appreciate you saying that too, that if you don't have that familial history of health in your life and you don't know where to start, get a book like mine because my husband, what a lovely man. He just delivered the actual book to me.
oh, we love
Isn't
him.
he a delight? It's called Fabulous Health, a simple plan to get well and stay well. And I will put a link in the chat for you so that you
Mm,
can get one. But thanks. But yeah, and unfortunately, that's what happens. People have to do the work themselves. And I think
yes.
as human beings, health is the most important thing. What is it that's saying? You got 99 problems until you lose your health and then you've only got one.
That wasn't the phrase that I was singing in my head, but okay, yeah, that one.
I want to hear it now.
I don't think it's YouTube live acceptable. There's
Okay. Okay. So for me, health has always been at the forefront. And I think that if you have your health, all the follow-on things in your life are great. So when you're healthy, you have energy to do other things. Start that business, go on that holiday, do your job really well, have
mm,
time after work to do exercise instead of falling asleep, go
mhm.
meet, hang out with your friends. If you're unhealthy, you have no desire nor no energy to do those things. So if we could get the world to think that health is number one and everything else comes second, then I think that would be amazing. But a lot of people, due to financial issues, they put work first, family
Mhm,
second,
mhm.
and health, maybe third
I think
or
I think for a lot
further
of
down the
people,
line.
yeah, health is the last thought until it's taken away from you. And
Mm.
that I think is where both you and I really come together is we're trying to shout in people's faces, your health is either use it or lose it, right?
Yes.
And as soon as you lose it, you lose everything. You lose
Yeah.
absolutely everything. So, I mean, I don't like to use the word should, but I think our health should be the number one priority
Mm.
at all times. Even like, and that's like what you can actually do is going to fluctuate depending on other priorities and people you might have to care for, a parent or for children and stuff. But at the end of the day, like the fundamentals of your health and not eating a fully processed food diet is going to be really
Mm.
important to that.
Mm.
Okay, so let's keep on track. I would like, this is a debate for and against. Um, it would be very fair to talk about why they are good for us. So, I mean, my list is very short, I'll be honest with you. I think they are life-saving medication, right? They were meant to save lives. It's like a last resort. It was meant to be a last resort, right? And now they've exploded. I think it can give you a head start, which you've kind of convinced me on. Like, yes, it can give you a head start. Um, Actually, my last point I've just realised is not a pro, it's a con. So you go ahead, you take this one over.
Okay, so before I tell you what all the pros of the medications are, I just wanted to let the people know, watching know that we are taking questions today, and I've been chatting in the chat with some of you, and
Have you? I haven't
I
even noticed.
appreciate I appreciate your questions and on your comments as well. We haven't had any questions yet. We've just had comments, so that's why the chat there. But if you do want to ask myself or Bianca any questions, please do so. And if you're watching the replay, that's okay. You can put your question in the comment and we will answer them afterwards. So we'll see those questions come up in the replay as well. So look, the benefits are, number one, let's say the main thing is weight loss. When you lose weight, magical things happen to your body, and happens like this. You can lower your blood pressure. For every 1 kilogram of weight that you lose, you can lower both your systolic and your diastolic blood pressure by 1 millimeter of mercury. And so that can take somebody from potentially dangerous, needing almost medication, to back to normal if they lose, say, 10 kilos. And 10 kilos is not a ton, right? And so if you are obese, you might need to lose 30 kilos or some amount like that. Imagine losing 30 points off your blood pressure. That is a game changer. So the other thing that it does is that it lessens your risk of heart disease. And these medications are now being prescribed for people with heart disease. And there's a doctor called Dr. Sean Wharton, Wharton. You can look out for him on LinkedIn. He's a Canadian obesity medicine specialist. He talks at all the obesity medicine conferences. He does all the studies on these GLP-1s. He has an amazing repertoire of body of work that he's done, and he will tell you all about how these medications are being used for different lifestyle-based diseases. The other thing is that when you lose body fat, you also lower your inflammation. And systemic inflammation is at the root of all disease, including cancer. But let's look at some of the things that you might think about when you think about inflammation. Number one is you get rid of edema. So a lot of people who are overweight, they suffer with edema, which means that their feet and their hands and their legs swell, and that's very uncomfortable. They can't move, they can't exercise. That is horrible. Imagine reducing that edema, meaning that you can now put shoes on and you can now walk the dog and walk around the block. So then, you know, it's like one foot in front of the other. You're finally climbing that mountain, because before I couldn't even put my shoes on, and now I can walk around the block, and now I'm getting exercise. So that's increasing my cardiovascular fitness. The other thing is inflammatory bowel disease. So we know that bowel disease and colon cancer and IBS and all these gut-related problems are largely created by not having enough fiber. And the reason a lot of people are obese is because they don't have enough fiber. Is one of the reasons, because they're eating these processed foods without fiber. But just by losing weight, you're going to reduce your risk of inflammatory bowel disease and reduce the symptoms of that. So that's awesome. And of course, the other inflammatory disease that people suffer from is rheumatoid arthritis. So you're talking about people who need to walk up and down stairs, and maybe they need to play the piano and they can't move their fingers, or maybe write and things like that. You get rid of the inflammation, and then you get rid of the rheumatoid arthritis. Now, there's a fantastic study, the Plants for Joint study, done in the Netherlands a few years ago. It's magnificent. And what they did was they put people on a whole food plant-based diet and saw whether or not it would reduce the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. Now, rheumatoid arthritis cannot be reversed, but the symptoms can be eliminated or lessened. And they found that by eating plants, which is awesome, reduced inflammation, and therefore reduced the likelihood of rheumatoid arthritis. So if you put eating plants and a GLP-1 together, you get the double whammy. So the other thing that it has been shown to do is reduce the risk of fatty liver disease. Now, I just watched a video by Dr. Lydia Alexander, that's Lydia, Lydia Alexander. She is also board certified by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and she's an obesity medicine specialist. And she was saying that in America, insurance will cover you for a liver transplant if you have fatty liver disease, but at this point in time, it won't cover you for GLP-1s to reduce your likelihood of getting fatty liver disease. So, you know, insurance is funny. But if you do have fatty liver disease, you could talk to your doctor about going on a GLP-1 to reduce the likelihood of that progressing. So there's many, many diseases that losing weight can help in the human body.
Yeah, so I wanted to jump in there and say all of that would also come from going on a whole food plant-based diet.
Yes, absolutely.
So
if it works for you.
Every benefit that you have just, I mean, we know that it benefits everyone. We've just got to teach them how to do it right?
Yes.
every one of those benefits you get from a whole food plant-based lifestyle with also working on your habits, your environment, and your emotion, like
Yeah.
your emotional side.
No
Um,
argument from me here. No argument. You cannot continue to eat inflammatory foods,
mm,
meat, dairy, fried foods, processed foods, and
mm.
take a GLP-1 and then expect that you're going to save all your problems. It's just not going to happen.
Perfect. That leads me on very nicely to my next point. Thank you. Are you reading my notes? Um,
I'm not. I'm looking at the chat.
well, I'm glad someone is,
We're
and I'm
getting
glad
love
you're doing
hearts.
the
Thank you.
admin. Okay, awesome. So the thing with rapid weight loss is, and I know that a lot of people, this is kind of like the hot thing on Google, is everyone's talking about like Ozempic face and talking about all of the celebrities who are going on rapido weight loss, right?
Mm,
Rapid weight loss isn't necessarily healthy. And this is
mm.
one of the cons for any kind of diet, regardless of whether it's an injection or anything else. When you have rapid weight loss, not only are you highly susceptible to regaining the weight because it's not a sustainable method, and this is, everything that I preach and teach, but also when we have rapid weight loss, it's not just fat, it's also typically muscle as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
and then we've got the look, right? The gaunt look that's going around in the celebrity world, which is actually like scaring me. People are clearly deficient. People are clearly starving themselves on a very, very low number of
Yeah.
calories.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether that's with Ozempic or a weight loss medication or not, that's still an unhealthy way to get down to a healthy weight, I would say.
Well, I think celebrities are not the people you should be looking at because historically, celebrities are already underweight before they even start a diet or any kind of weight loss. And so the Ozempic face has got nothing to do with the medicine. It's got everything to do with the fact that they have no body fat and that it doesn't matter how you get that thin, you're going to get that gaunt look. Particularly women over menopause, they lose weight in their face quite quickly. Absolutely. I think that if you are going to be looking at any kind of weight loss medication, you need to do so with consultation with your doctor. Your doctor needs to be talking to you at least once every 6 weeks, if not once a month. And you need to, and they will say, hey, listen, you lost way too much weight this month. And obviously you're not getting enough. Well, when I say obviously, the only way to lose weight is to not have the calories, right? So it seems like you may not be getting all the nutrition that you need. And you've told me that you're tired and you look gaunt and this is not good, right? So then the doctor needs to help you out. If you don't, if you're not me or Bianca, who knows what to do, then you need to start either reducing the amount of medication, eating more food. So these things need to be taken into consideration. I believe that medicines are medicines and they should be prescribed by a physician. They should be monitored by a physician. And it is that physician's responsibility to pay attention to the patient to make sure that they are getting all the nutrition that they need to be getting. Now, yeah, patients lie, blah, 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 but whatever. I think this is not a quick fix. And I don't think that if you're starting to lose weight on these medicines and you're losing more than, say, 2 pounds a week, which I think, 1 kilo a week, you're losing more than that, then maybe you're not getting enough nutrition because we
Mm,
all know that there's the recommended daily allowance of your vitamins and minerals and there isn't for phytonutrients, but we all know that your fruits and vegetables are all full of phytonutrients and we
mhm.
need to eat these things to maintain health. It's got nothing to do with the
Absolutely.
scale. It's got nothing to do with how much weight you lose, but we need to get these nutrients in. And then you mentioned the losing of the muscle, and this is imperative. So
Mm,
anybody who is considering going on a GLP medication must, and this is a non-negotiable, they must know how much protein they're eating and they must have periodized strength training built into their week. And if you say, oh, I can't be bothered with that, then do not take these medicines, because you will lose muscle, and losing muscle is dangerous for many, many different reasons. Number one, you need muscle to hold up your skeleton. If you have less muscle, you will lose bone density. If you fall over and break something, then you're at greater risk of infections, and people over 80 who break their hip are more likely to die in the next 12 months than people who fall over when they're 80 and don't break their hip. So
Bone
strength
breakages, I
training,
think, are the top causes of mortality in older
yeah,
people, I think.
yeah, absolutely. So strength training is a not negotiable, not negotiable.
Osteoporosis and osteopenia are things that you need to make sure absolutely that you are taking care of in the
Yeah,
background.
for sure. So let me tell you about bone health.
Mm.
A woman has her optimal maximum bone density at age 18. So I used to teach girls who were between the ages of 16 and 18 strength training, and in an international baccalaureate college. And the girls would come in at 16 and say, can we do some step aerobics? And I'd say, no, you're going to lift some weights. And they go, I don't want to lift weight. I don't want to get bulky. And would say to them, you need to make your bones as dense as possible for the next 2 years, and then onwards, obviously, so that when you're old and crusty like me, you don't have osteoporosis and you're not falling over, breaking all your bones. And the girls were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, start strength training now. And if you're in your 50s and you haven't strength trained, it's not too late. You can, what happens is when you lift up a heavy weight, your muscles pull on your bone, and your brain recognizes that pulling on the bone, and the brain says, oh, that bone isn't strong enough to withstand that pulling, so I better lay down some more bone cells. And so then your bones become stronger and stronger and stronger the more muscly moving exercises you do. So things like running is really good. That ground reaction force of your foot hitting the ground is awesome. Even star jumps, jumping on the spot, anything like that, that is what we call high impact. And if you can't do that, then that's okay. You can lift weights. Just say you can't, jump and run and things like that. It hurts your back or it hurts your foot or whatever. You can still lift weights from a seated position. You can do push-ups, you can do some kind of pull-ups, and then as you get fitter, you can do body weight squats, and then when you're feeling fitter again, you can start lifting weights. And they don't have to be really heavy to start with, but they have to be the heaviest that you can lift. So, for example, if you go to pick up a
This ain't
weight
doing anything, guys.
yeah, that's right. If you go to and if you've never done weight training before, must, not negotiable, get somebody to teach you. Whether that person is on your television or whether that person's in front of your body. Yeah, like a personal, you go to a gym or you go to a personal trainer comes to your house. I subscribe to a streaming service that has trainers on it, and I do their programs. So you need somebody who's trained to teach you how to lift the weights. And once you learn how to lift the weights, then you can go off on your own. But I would highly recommend that people who've never lifted weights before join a class, like a weightlifting class. And I used to teach weightlifting to seniors as well. So, yeah, so you're going to find somebody like me in the rec centre, the YMCA or something like that. And this person's going to teach you how to do a safe body weight squat, how to do a safe push-up on your knees even. And if you can't do it on your knees, you can do it on the wall. So there's always modifications. Never think you can't lift weights. Think, I must lift weights, and how am I going to do it with the ability that I already have?
100%. Everything can be stripped back. Everything can be regressed, so you can start. Like a push-up can be regressed to standing up parallel to a wall and then
Yep,
pushing off. Like you can
like
start from the
this.
bare basic. Exactly. Exactly. I really want to kind of highlight what we just said. is, because a lot of people start the GLP-1s because they don't want to diet. It's hard, it's difficult, I'm really struggling to get rid of this weight. So I just want to take the drugs and forget about it. But the thing is if you want to take the drugs and forget about it, it is going to like inevitably lead you down this road of being unhealthy, being
Yep.
deficient, and
Yep.
lacking in many
Yep.
areas of your life. So
Yep. 100% agree.
if you're thinking about taking them, and I totally get it, but if you're thinking about taking them, you have to actually be obsessed with your nutrition. You have to be obsessed with training and learning how to exercise. Like if you're taking the drugs to escape not having to think about your health, that is going to leave you down an unhealthy path.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I had a couple of like things that I put together for some GLP-1 alternatives because some people are probably going to be like, I kind of get this, but is there any other ways? So before we go on to that, did you have anything else to add so far?
No, no, it's
Okay,
cool. This is awesome. How's
awesome.
everybody enjoying the chat? If you like it, give us a little thumbs up or a little
I
love
think
heart.
I can do
And
it. Can I do it? I don't even know. There you go. I think so.
I can do a love
Oh, we
heart.
got fabulous
I'm gonna do
Mary.
100%. There we go.
Oh, we got fabulous Mary. Beautiful Mary on the screen. Amazing. Okay. So if you are looking, so let's just think about what GLP-1s do, right? They cling to your receptors to tell you you are full with less food. How do we achieve that in a natural way? Oh yeah, and you said a slowed what did you say? A
Gastric
slower.
emptying, slowed gastric emptying.
Yep, that's why I couldn't say it. So I think the first thing that strikes me is we have to be fiber fueled. We
Oh my God,
have to
yes.
focus on eating plants. Guys, you can eat an astronomical amount of food and still stay in a calorie deficit,
Mm.
right? I don't think people understand, or a lot of people don't understand, that you can eat a shit ton of food. Can I swear? A shit ton of
It's
food.
your channel. You can swear.
No, well, there we go. You can eat a lot of food and still stay in that calorie deficit, right?
Mm.
That way you know that you're hitting all of your nutrients. So you can do it in a super healthy way and be fiber fueled. So eat more plants, right? Eat more of those fibrous foods. Because that's when you eat fiber, it's going to improve your gut health and it's going to act like the GLP-1s more than
Mm.
anything else. It's going to
Yep.
fill you up, keep you satisfied, and you can have fewer calories with that.
Yes.
The second one that I had is make sure you've got balanced plates, like pairing carbohydrates, proteins, and fats with your fiber at each meal, because that's
Mhm.
going to minimize the glucose absorption, which is going to slow that release of energy down, meaning that you're not crashing and craving food after like an hour. I see a lot of people they might go vegan or go plant-based and just get rid of the protein source. And now they're just having like a high carb meal. Like a high carb meal is like there's nothing wrong with potatoes, there's nothing wrong with pasta, there's nothing wrong with rice, but like having just high carbs, you're probably going to crash a couple of
Yeah. And
hours
go
or an
for
hour
the
after.
whole food versions of them. So the brown rice over the white rice, the protein, lentil pasta over the white pasta,
Mm,
things like that are going to give you, a longer sustained energy over and slower gastric emptying for sure, and more fiber
perfect. And more
and
fiber.
less glucose spike as well.
Yes, which is going to help
Yeah,
with your insulin resistance with diabetes,
correct.
prediabetes, obesity.
Yeah.
Um, Installing healthy lifestyle choices. So physical activity, your mindset. So things like emotional regulation, as I mentioned
Mm.
as well, nervous system regulation, um, nutrition, and lifestyle.
Yep.
Um, and if you are we either tapering off GLP-1s or you've just not done them yet at all, these also then apply. Um, you want to like when you're tapering off, just a quick note, your food noise is going to come back, right?
Yeah, so they say. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that it would.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
So
I
that
heard Oprah say that she was on a GLP-1 for a couple of years and then she decided that I'm at the happy weight now and I'll go off it. She went off it for a few months and she said that the food noise came back, you know, with abandon. And
Mm.
so she decided, and mind you, this is one person's experience. This is not scientific evidence. This is third-hand information from a celebrity. That she decided that she would go back on what we call a maintenance dose, which is she doesn't lose any more weight, but it just quietens that food noise and stops her running to the fridge every 25 minutes.
That tells me there's an emotional tie, there's a story and a belief system that needs changing. Not that she needs to be on drugs for the rest of her life.
Well, I think this is a debate
This is
for
the
somebody
debate.
else. I would like to have a talk with Dr. Sean Wharton about that actually, because they're saying no, it's brain chemistry. It's got nothing to do with emotion. I mean, obviously we all have emotional pulls to food, but
Mm.
there's a big brain chemistry part of this, and that even if you've worked through the emotional pull to food, you can't outsmart the brain chemistry. So maybe I'll reach out to Dr. Sean and maybe I'll do a podcast with him and I'll ask him about that, because I think that's really important. I think the thing about these GLP-1s is if you have dealt with all these things and it's still not working for you, then the GLP-1s can help, because you cannot change your brain chemistry. Yes, you can work through your emotional pull to food. Yes, you can work through your past trauma. Yes, you can work out your happy plate with all the different important nutritional benefits on your plate, etc. But I think there's the brain chemistry thing is something that the researchers are investigating a lot more than I have, and I think that's time for another chat on that.
I think just a personal thing. I mean, I've always like thought that Oprah is fantastic. And when we talked about the fact that you were reading her book, my problem is that she's pushed diets. She's promoted tons of diets throughout her career.
Yeah.
And she's been on the face of magazines for most of the diets, right? My concern then is she has a dieting history. And typically, when we're on and off diets, she probably hasn't settled on something for her body that's nutritionally sound. And I'm just guessing here, right? I'm not saying that this is absolutely certain, but she's probably struggled with finding a sustainable diet. I don't know if she's tried whole food plant-based for a long period of time, but that just tells me that she's got, or that my opinion on this would be that clearly she's not found something that is sustainable for her. And if there's any monetary value in it and career benefit in there as well, that there could be that. But I think that just kind of ties in with if you're on and off diets, because I get a lot of women come to me who have tried all the diets. They're not a sustainable approach to weight loss where you can maintain it for life. Um, I kind
Yeah.
of,
So, yeah, look, I'm hearing you. And I don't know, Oprah, if you're watching this, have you ever gone whole food plant based for at least a year? And did it work? I know you've had chefs and trainers and people like that cooking for you, and you still struggled. And I know that she thinks that these drugs are a lifesaver. I believe, and I'm going to say this with the most love,
Mm,
Bianca. I see you as a person who says, if you try hard enough, it will work. If you do the work, it will work. Your body will respond to the stimulus by behaving and becoming a healthy, best you can be person. And I appreciate that. And I know that that works for a lot of people. I was that person and I still struggled. And I
mm,
believe that there's something else, that it's not a me issue. It's not an effort issue. And a lot of people feel despondent and let down that despite the effort, despite doing all the things, despite being in the zone and obsessive, their body still does not behave the way they expect it to based on the research. And a lot of these doctors stand up and say, you know, you just have to eat the plants and you be a skinny little stick figure and you don't even have to do the exercise. And that really bugs me because, you know, you have to do the exercise and walking is just not enough. That's the world is a bell curve. And if you don't understand statistics, what that means is that 67% of the people who do what you say will have excellent results. And then the people outside the bell curve, some of them will have kind of okay results. Some people will have better than okay, and some people have worse than okay. And then there's the third standard deviation of people, the people on the very, very edge, that it doesn't matter what they do, doesn't work. Or they do it like just the way you say, and it works so good it goes off the charts, right? So I think we have to be a little kinder to people and understand that, yes, the majority of people, 67% of people, that's the standard deviation. Most people will react favorably to everything that you and I preach. Most people. And then there's the people, it doesn't really matter what they do. Even when they do this, it's not enough. Now, I have a word for those people because I'm those people. Don't give up. Don't stop eating plants. Don't stop exercising. Don't stop doing all the things, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to go down the rabbit hole of ill health and you're going to, run the risk of getting these diseases, and your life's going to be worse, worse, worse. Keep doing the things, because that's your starting point. And I say that in my book. I say, look, do all the things. And then if you go to the doctor after 6 months or a year of doing all the things and the blood pressure's still high, take the damn blood pressure medicine, because the blood pressure medicine is going to help keep you healthy. You don't want high blood pressure, and you can't stand on your high horse and say, but I'm doing all the things. I'm eating plant-based, I'm exercising, I'm drinking the water, I'm getting the sleep, and stuff that blood pressure. I'm just not going to take the medicine. No, take the damn medicine, because you need to keep those levels down. And I think the people that I'm talking to are the people who've doing all the things and it's still not getting them where they want to be. So maybe these GLP1s, maybe the blood pressure medicine, maybe the cholesterol medicine, whatever it is, maybe the metformin is another tool in the box. You can't make it a be all and end all. And I think we just need to be nicer to people. We can't say, oh, you didn't do all the things, so that's why it's not working. That's a little bit harsh. And I think that there are people out there who are doing all the things and they're still struggling.
I would like to isolate those people though, because I'm not absolutely not taking away from the fact that it feels frustrating. It feels like you're doing all the right things. It feels fucking hard. And oh, sorry, language. It feels like you're hitting your head against a brick wall. Like, I do not doubt at all that it feels like no matter what you do, it's not working. But that's your personal account, right? If you were statistically, right, to track everything and look at what you're doing, could you then change? Right? Because it feels like you're doing all the things, but to me, there's something that you can't see that you're not doing. So it could just be, for example, the basic example, the first thing that I can think of is just consuming a couple of hundred extra calories without realizing it from like coffee or like syrups or something like that. Something that you don't know because you're blinded to, you can't see it.
Yeah, and that's where you come in, right? So you are like that. For people who don't know, Bianca is an awesome health coach, and she will help you.
I was going to say,
dial
don't believe
down.
anything she says about me today, but
I'm not saying we're mates. So she will dial down. You can come to her and say, I've done all the things and it's not working. And she'll say, okay, have you done all the things, or shall we look at what you're doing? And then when you do peel back the layers, oh no, I'm not doing that. Okay, we'll try that for a while. Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. We'll try that for a while. And that's what health coaching is good for, because Bianca's right. You can think you're doing all the right things and then you're not doing all the right things. Or actually, maybe we shouldn't call it all the right things. Maybe we should say there are other techniques and habits that you can start implementing now that can help you get to your goal. And there are other techniques and habits that you can throw in the bin that you thought were good for you that are not working. So yes, absolutely, that's where health coaches come into play. And if anybody's thinking of hiring a coach, hire Bianca, because she is freaking awesome.
And get Terry's book.
But self-promotion. But I think, look, here's the thing about science. 100 years ago, forgive me, I don't know the exact time, there was no penicillin. And people were dying because they cut their finger. Yeah. Or, they stepped on a nail or whatever. And now we have penicillin and antibiotics that kill bacteria that save people's lives. It's just a tool. It's not the be all and end all. Yes, people are, overusing antibiotics, but that's another story. But then medicine progresses, and its job is to treat ailments. And sometimes the treatments are cover-ups, like, for example, metformin doesn't cure diabetes. A whole food plant-based diet and exercise cures diabetes, but metformin can help you regulate your blood pressure while you're on the journey of reinventing your lifestyle. And I would love you to put these drugs in the same bucket. And the bucket is one of many things. One thing that you can do to add to your repertoire of things that you're already doing. It's not a cop-out. It's not a or, it's an and. So it's like, I'll just take the medicine instead of eating healthily. No, it's I will take the medicine and I'll eat healthily, and I'll look at my emotional pull to food, and I'll look at my daily habits. And so with respect, I'd love you to kind of accept it as an and for some people, but not, we're not talking, oh my God, you're 300 pounds, take the meds, right?
Yeah.
Although some doctors will say, and I go to what we call professional continuing education webinars for health professionals, right? So these things cost money, and they're made for doctors and health professionals and nutritionists and people like me, board certified people. And then we go to these webinars and all the experts sit in a row and they say, we found out this and we found out that and we did this and we did that, and this is what we were recommending to our patients. And they will say, if you have a person who is dangerously overweight with dangerously high cholesterol and dangerously high blood pressure and, dangerously high glucose, sticking them on a GLP-1 first is actually a good thing, because they'll start to lower the weight, which in turn will lower the risk of all these other diseases. And then 100%. While they're on this medication, then you're sending them to Bianca, and Bianca's teaching them how to, look at health and, reinvent their plate and where they're shopping and what they're buying and how they're feeling about food. So the big thing in the medical profession at the moment is teams. It's not the doctor and the patient anymore. It's the doctor and the dietitian and, the health coach and the endocrinologist and the cardiologist working as a team to help the patient reach their optimal health. So I just hope that you start to imagine the way you think about these medicines as a part of a health plan. But certainly for people who are in danger of dying, they can come first. But for 100%. most of us who are a bit chunky and we're feeling sluggish and our blood pressure's kind of coming up and our cholesterol's kind of coming up and we feel crap and our skin's spotty, we start with lifestyle. We don't go to medicine first. We start with lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, I totally agree. The medications are there as a last resort, almost. for those people, right, who are dangerously high, exactly as you said. But I think it is very, very important. And if anyone walks away from this conversation with one thing, I think from both what we have said, these medications, they're not a magic freaking pill.
No. Oh,
They,
they
you
are.
know, but they're not a magic pill, right?
No, they're
You
not a magic
also need
pill.
to consider your cooking habits, your the meals that you choose, your lifestyle choices, whether you grab that drive through on the way home, or you swing by a supermarket and grab something like a salad and a can of chickpeas, right? Very, very similar time saving or last minute choices, but they're
Mm.
different for your health. They're different health outcomes. One thing that I think we had on the comments as well about like emotional eating, and I know I've mentioned it a couple of times, but if you eat to escape, to numb out, to have a break in the afternoon, right? That is your body saying, hey, I need something, but
Mm.
we are chronically misinterpreting that as I need to eat, right? So again, that's something that I think that we really need to focus on is what am I using food for? Am I
Mm.
just using it because I want some flavor, some joy? Do I want something crunchy? That's all like helping with your nervous system and giving yourself a break. I think a lot of women, especially, I can say this, like a lot of women have hobbies and full-time jobs and they're parents and they're pet parents as well. And you're a wife and you're a daughter and you're caring, like everyone has a full plate.
Mm.
And I think for a lot of people, food soothes as a comfort, but so
Mm.
does wine for some people, and so do drugs for other people, right?
Yep.
It's your
Yep.
vice. So I think that's really important to really take a look at in your life and say, okay, because when the drugs go, if the drugs have to, because I've heard people being told you have to come off the weight loss drug for a health concern by their doctors, right? And they say, right, we need you to come off it. And now they're panicking. They're like, shit, I need to come off this. How am I going to cope? How am I going to, because they haven't changed things along the way.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
I
yeah, so
will
if
I
you,
will just
mm,
put a little thing in there. You mentioned drugs and alcohol.
mhm,
There are studies going on at the moment to look at using these drugs to treat addiction of all types,
interesting.
including drugs and alcohol. Now, the issue that the researchers are having is that a lot of people who, I shouldn't say a lot, some people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol are not overweight
Mm,
because they're addicted to drugs and alcohol and they don't eat properly.
mm,
Uh, so they're probably thinner on the thin side. So they're trying to work out how they can use these drugs as an addiction drug without, making people lose more weight than they need to. So that's another area of research that I think's coming out in the next
that's
couple of years and
interesting.
should be very interesting to see.
That's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, completely off topic, but
No, no, that's right. I was just going to add my last point. Um, and understanding like cravings, what your cravings and urges mean and how you can soothe those effectively. And I think that's, in the work that I do, 90% of women, 99, I'd probably go as far to say 99% of my clients, they don't know those things. They don't know how to cook healthy. They don't know how to choose healthier choices. I had a client who would swing by the supermarket on her way home because it was more convenient. We actually looked at the truth in that because she had a lens on her story, right? She saw it from her perspective. So having someone there like teach you and have a look at that and say, well, how about we look at it in a different perspective? And she realized that her habits were just preferred. They were that she thought that that was the easy option, right? So having a look at those choices and regulating your nervous system, learning how to cope and process your emotions properly, and past trauma and things like grief and stuff like that, and learn how what your cravings are actually trying to do for you in the moment.
yeah,
I
and
think all of
that's
those
that
things are
kind of
important.
stuff. I don't think it's possible to do by yourself. I
Mm.
think you need somebody to help you with that.
Oh dear,
And
what a
that's
shame.
where,
That's where I come
yeah.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Because those things are subconscious
Mm,
and just by definition, you don't even know that you have those things happening in your brain. So,
mm,
and I think one of the people that's watching now just mentioned about brain neuroplasticity. Can we change our brain? Yeah, we can change our brain. We have to rewrite the stories in our brain.
Mhm. And that's where I come in again.
Yep, that's right. So have I changed your opinion on them? And for those of you who haven't worked it out by now, Bianca was pretty anti GLP1s at the beginning of this.
Mhm.
Have I changed your opinion a little bit?
Look, Terry, my concern, here we go, getting on our high horse again. No, I'm kidding. No, my concern is people are going to go, cool, what an awesome conversation that I heard. I'm just going to get on the GLP-1s and ignore everything that they said that needs to go with it. That is my concern because that is what I see and I hear, and I know that's not the whole reality, right? I know there are
Yeah.
people out there who are like, okay, if I need to go on GLP-1s, I need to also make sure that I'm cleaning up my act and I'm cleaning up my lifestyle and I listen to my thoughts and I actually look at what's going on, who I'm surrounding myself with, and the places that I hang out. All of these are important as well. And I don't think that the majority, and this is just an opinion, this is just speculation, I don't think the majority of people who jump on the medications also consider the all of those aspects as well. And I have a concern that people don't even think about the long-term impact of not focusing on your health, not prioritizing weightlifting, not prioritizing balance plates. And my concern is people are just jumping on the bandwagon because it's easy and it's socially acceptable because every influencer is selling it. Do
Yeah, and
I?
there's people doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's people
100%,
doing
yeah.
that, but you and I are not talking to those people. We're talking to the people who actually care about their health. And if you've listened this far, you care about your
Well
health
done.
because after the first 5 minutes, you would have gone, "Oh, I'm not listening to these people anymore." Right? So I believe that you and I are talking to the people who want to make changes in their lifestyles, who
Mm,
want to do the work. Absolutely. And I'd like to think too that maybe there's people out there who you're describing and they've gone, by listening to this, they've gone, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that I had to do the work as well. I thought they were the magic pill, and I
yeah.
didn't realize that if I just do them without doing all these other things, I'm going to be either back to square one when I get off them, or I'm going to be unhealthy and I'm going to have all these different health complications." Look, one thing we didn't talk about, and I know we've been on for like over an hour now, but we didn't talk about the side effects of these. And
Mm,
the number one was the muscle loss, and we addressed that. But
hmm
the number two is nausea,
hmm
vomiting,
I've got my list
and
here somewhere.
gut distress.
Yeah.
Now,
Hair
I've
loss.
read, yeah, sorry, say that again.
Hair loss as well.
Hair loss. So I've read a couple of books. One was Enough by Dr. Anya Yastaboff. That's the Oprah book. And I did a review of that book on my channel, Fabulous Health TLC, just in case anybody wants to go and see it. Uh, it's not really an Oprah book. It's a doctor book. The doctor wrote it, and if Oprah didn't champion it, nobody would have ever read the book because nobody's ever heard of her, except for the obesity medicine population community. So awesome book, and it tells you the history and the pros and cons. So that's fantastic. Another book is Weightless by Dr. Rayo Salas Whalen, again, an obesity specialist who's been working with people for 30 years, and she gives you all the pros and cons. So if you're thinking about it and you're worried about these side effects, both these doctors said the only way you're going to get side effects is if you freestyle it. And they
Mm.
both had examples of patients who decided that they would freestyle it because you know what? We all know best. We're not going to waste our time going to a doctor. I've got the drug in my fridge. I'm going to just
Mm.
put in a whole bunch more because I want to lose more weight. Well, hello, now all of a sudden I've got GI distress and I've got constipation or diarrhea or I'm vomiting or all the nasty, nasty things.
Mm.
These are potent drugs. You should not take them without talking to your doctor and discussing the side effects. Look, I've had zero side effects. I'm on the very, very lowest dose that you can possibly be on. And it's been working for me. I feel great on them, but that's just me. You can't take my experience as gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just randomly buy them off the internet. You wanted to talk also about the varying qualities of these medications. Dr. Dr. Rayo Salas Whalen, in her Weightless book, she actually has a checklist. If you look her up, she's got a free checklist on her website. You don't even have to buy the book, on all the questions you have to ask your provider before you start taking the drug. And she's talking about the off-market providers, the providers on the internet. Ask them where they get their drug compounded. Do they have FDA certification to compound this particular drug? All the questions. So you need to do your research, and you need to be under the care of a physician. You cannot just, DIY it. This is not a DIY solution. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. I think it just really it connects with everything that we've said. Is you can't just it isn't a miracle. I know you said it isn't a miracle drug because you have to do the work as well, and you have to make sure it's a healthy way. Otherwise, you're going down a one route track to a
Yeah.
very unhealthy potential anorexia. Then we look at the severe deficiencies,
Well,
osteopenia,
yeah,
osteoporosis, like we were saying, and
osteopenia,
yeah.
absolutely. You do not
Hmm.
want to lose bone density, and
No.
sarcopenia is terrible for older people.
That was the word
Sarcopenia,
I couldn't remember.
sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass.
Yeah.
So you do not want to be a size 0 and have 37% body fat. That is not healthy. You
Hmm.
want to be a healthy body fat percentage, which, is under 30% for a woman, postmenopausal woman. And ideally, somewhere around about, between 20 and 25 is like awesome body fat for a menstruating woman. And even somebody who's postmenopausal, somewhere in that 23 to 25% body fat percentage range. And if you don't understand body fat, go read my book or go onto my website, Fabulous Health, and I tell you all about body fat percentage and how to measure it.
Did
But
she tell you she wrote a book?
but it's important that you maintain that ratio of bone density to muscle mass,
Mm.
lean mass, and fat mass. And
Hmm.
most average people who don't have a degree in sports science who went to health coach school don't understand what that is. And
Hmm.
it's important to learn what are these things that these people are talking about, and how can I maintain that higher muscle mass and that high bone density. And it's just exercise for that situation as well.
I think talking about maintain is how can I maintain these results so I can come off the medication and also feel confident in my choices, know how much my body needs to eat, know what foods that I need to eat to support my metabolism, to support my hormones, to support, my organs and my hair. And I just want to make sure that my skin and myself and my mood, my energy all feels good, right? We want that good, vibrant vitality. Then we want that longevity, not just fat loss at a cost, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So have you changed my mind? You know what? Maybe we'll do a second conversation later. No, I do think that in the right circumstances, they would be a great tool. Absolutely. And I would never ever shame anyone for their choices. But I would say, hey, look, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know. And there's a lot of angles with health that even I don't see in myself for myself, right? Because I'm not someone else. And I think there's a lot of angles that needs to come into play. There's all the things that we've mentioned that will influence your overall weight, and they all also, I think, need to be considered for a long-term approach. And everything that you said as well is you can't just go and free will this. You just can't just jump into it and guess your way through this. I think it's very important to work with someone, with a medical professional, and even a team. As you said, I think that's really important is having a team around you.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. Any last words?
No, I think we covered it. If anybody has any questions at all,
Yes.
please put them in the chat. Bianca and I will answer them for you. I
Mm.
hope you've enjoyed this discussion on GLP-1s, the pros and cons.
Hmm.
And yeah, we'll hope to see you soon again.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for jumping on with me, Terry. I appreciate this. This has been so much fun, and we'll have another debate another time.
See you
Take
later.
care. Bye.
Bye.